So good morning friends. As most of you know that FTI has already declared their merit list of the candidate but not the true merit list. So let's go by one. This year the examination pattern has changed. So there is a paper 1 and paper 2. Paper 1 has a MCQ and MSQ section and paper 2 is a descriptive section. So this year they came out with a filter that if you do not secure the highest marks in an objective question answer paper, which is paper 1, your paper 2 will not be evaluated. So they came out with a ratio of 1:25, 15 for various categories, and accordingly they evaluated certain number of, they would be evaluating only those sheets. So first list was declared in which you come to know your roll number. You log in and password with the same place where you found your admit card, and you will have two options over there. Either it will say, you will find something like this, which says that your name and total marks obtained out of 50. Okay. Please note down this thing. Out of 50, you secured that much marks. And it says not qualified for evaluation of paper 2. It means if you got something like this information of your username and password once you log in, it means your paper 2 will not be evaluated and you are not being considered for the final selection. So you are being rejected. This is very, very clear. So if you have something written over there, don't expect that your paper B will be evaluated. Paper 2. Now, after a few days, on 19th, they came out with another second list, which is a list of total marks of list of the student whose paper were evaluated. And this is out of 100, which means in subjective as well as objective together, they put together both the marks and they came out with this list in which they have not specifically mentioned whether you are being selected or not. So right now, the situation is that you secured out of 100, say for example, 50 marks or 60 or 70 or 71, whatever it is. So this is out of 100, which means paper 1 and paper 2 put together both. Now the question is whether I am being shortlisted or not. So for that, you have to wait for 7 to 10 days. This has been the practice in the JENT entrance exam for past 3 to 4 years since it started. They will give you a headache of 7 to 8 days. Keep thinking whether you are being selected or not. And then after 7 to 8 days, they will come out with a list of students who are being finalist, which is vary from course to course. Normally, it is between 30 to 40 for FTII, and for STII FTII, there would be a separate list over there where normally it is not 40, but sometimes it is 50, sometimes it is 55, and there is a reason behind it. SRFTI has never been the first priority of the student to join for various reasons known to the student itself and maybe the institution, why SRFTI is not considered as a priority. But their number is always higher than the FTI. And second thing is, there is no clash between both the lists. So you will have a choice even if you got selected for FTI as well as SRFTI. So there will be certain roll numbers which will be listed for both the list who has secured the highest marks. So the merit list is being prepared considering paper 1, which is objective, MCQ and MSQ, and paper 2, which is only subjective. That's one thing. So just to talk about, very often people talk about what was the cutoff last year, whether I would be shortlisted or not. Nobody can tell you exactly what is going to be the shortlisted this year because it varies from year to year. But I'll just give you an example in case of acting course. Last year, cutoff for the general category was 74 marks. There is something called percentile. This year, this thing is not being mentioned. So forget about this word called percentile. Just remember the individual marks which is being displayed after logging in on your control panel. So according to the collective marks, a list will be prepared and that roll number would be displayed on their website. And those people who are being selected, they will also be informed individually via email. People who are being rejected, they will not be informed via email. So if your roll number is not there and if you do not receive any email, it means you are being rejected. This is as simple as that. Coming to the cutoff, 74 was the cutoff last year for acting course. A general category student who secured 74 marks was called for the orientation program, where roughly around 75 students are being called for one-day orientation program in Delhi as well as in FTI, depend upon the center of your location. And out of the 75 student, 35 or 40, between 35 and 40 students are called in the final round of orientation and interview in the FTI for 5 to 6 days. This was the practice of last year. Last to last year, the cutoff was 70 marks. Somebody who got a 69.5, I know personally that student was not called for the interview, but somebody who got the 70 marks was called for the interview. This is a case of acting where FTI received the highest number of applications. After that, the second course for which they received the highest number of application is Direction and Screenplay 3-year program. I've been in touch with many students. Officially, they don't declare this until unless you file a RTI or something like that. So I know a student, she secured 64 marks and she was called for the selection for FTI. SR-FTI cutoff is always low. So, but I was also told that there was another student who secured less marks and that person was also received the call. So, I am hoping roughly around 62 was the cutoff. I am not 100% sure whether it was 62.5 or 62, but roughly I would say either it was 62 or 62.5 was the cutoff last year for the direction course I am talking about. Okay. For cinematography, it is always a little higher, roughly around 68 or 70 is the cutoff for the cinematography. And for editing, it is slightly less, and sound recording also, it is a slightly less. So these are the two courses. We can hope that if you have secured, say for example, last year I'm talking about, I was in touch with a couple of people. Roughly, I would say 60 would have been the cutoff. SC and ST, there's always a lesser marks is a cutoff. And OBC category has a little higher cutoff, lesser than general category, but more than SC and ST. So say for example, if a student who's a SC candidate and if he is cut off, if he's secured 45 marks and he received the call, for OBC category, it would be definitely, I would say 50 or 55. It is always higher than the SC and ST candidate because number of application in OBC categories are much more higher. So this is the cutoff business, and also if you are being shortlisted for both, there will not be clash. I just said previously, and there would be a separate list displayed by SR-FTI as well as FTI. Both institution works differently, though they come under the Ministry of Information Broadcasting. The joint entrance test is common, but the selection process by both the institutes are individual. They will declare their list and they will declare this list. Now, another question people have been asking, suppose I am being shortlisted for FTI as well as SR-FTI. I give the orientation interview at both the places. Do I have a chance to, if I get selected in both the list? But if I get selected in SR-FTI, I fill up my application form and paid the fees, etc. And then later on, I also get selected and my priority is FTII. So will I get the refund? Yes. There is a certain number of days are there within which if you file the return, you would get the return. If you have filled up the form at SR-FTI first and later on you get selected for FTI and you wanted to join FTI. So this is in brief. I would also talk about a little bit about the case of acting student because that is a domain in which maximum number of applications are being received. 75 to 80, I would say, is the average number of students which are called for. And there's a ratio between, for each category, SC, ST, general category, in which ratio is higher for SC and ST because there is a seat, one seat is there. So ratio would be, you can read it in the prospectus. It is written very, very clearly. I don't remember exactly, but it is 1:13 or something like that. And then that after one day orientation program is being conducted in a national scale drama. And there would be certain expert from outside and 3 people panel will decide you and you already have the details in your mail. And I would preparing a separate video for acting course, how to go about it and all that for those who are going to be receiving a call for the orientation program. And after that, a 35 student would be called for the final orientation interview program in FTI on the basis of which you will be evaluated. Now, very often people ask if my marks are not higher, but I still get the call. So, how much weightage this entrance exam will carry? If you read the prospectus carefully, it says 20% only, which means somebody who got a highest marks and somebody who got the lowest marks, but he is also shortlisted, they all are more or less same. I'm using a word more or less same simply because now your performance would decide whether you will be selected or not. I know one of the student who was a graduate from Madhya Pradesh Drama School, MPSD. I've been in touch with that student because I used to go there to conduct a workshop on filmmaking for 5 days along with my other team members. And that's how I met. He was a topper of last year in the entrance exam. And unfortunately, despite an intelligent student, hardworking, good looking, everything he has, he was not shortlisted. And he was the topper of the written entrance exam. So simply because it carries only 20% weightage, they did not feel that he is deserving candidate, so he did not shortlist it. So securing the higher marks in the written exam and securing a lesser marks in the written exam do not carry much weightage. It carries only 20% of the weightage. So your final selection would depend how do you perform in the orientation program as well as in the interview in which director and other expert would evaluate you people. So for that, I already have prepared certain videos. 1 or 2 videos are already there on our YouTube channel where you're watching this video. You would definitely find it easily and you more or less things remain same. Nothing going to be changed. And this time, obviously, it is not going to be online, most probably because institute has opened up and the classes have started. So you have to physically go over there and thing would happen in a way face to face, not on the online, the way they did last year for the selection of the student. So this is in brief. If anybody still have a question down there, my email address is given over there. You could send your brief, precise question in my email and I would try to revert within 24 hours because I receive many mails and it is not possible for me to answer each and every mail in the same day, but I do answer every mail whenever I receive any email from there. But those people who are discertain, they forward, because this year the pattern has changed and I strongly object to this evaluation system in which they do not want to take the headache of checking all the answer sheet. We have challenged in the High Court and I would be making a separate video and it will be loaded tomorrow, most probably by evening. Do watch that. We are appealing in the Supreme Court for the same. And hopefully this system will change because this is not a democratic and a very, I would say, ideal way of evaluating students' aptitude test for a particular course. So this is in brief for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it would have been benefited. If you still have a doubt, shoot an email to me and I will revert back. Thanks and have a nice day.